Welcome back, folks. So let's continue from where we left off last time. We had covered till the verse 13. I'm going to uh, recite 12, 13, and a couple of verses, and then we will look at one of the, or probably the most important verse of the Bhagwad Gita is what we are coming to. We saw in the verse 12, Natve vaham jatu nasam, natvam neme janadhipaha, na chaiva na bhavishyamaha, sarve vayamata param, dehinosmin yatha dehe, kaumaram yauvanam jara, tatha dehantara praptihi, dhirastatra namuhyati. So we saw this verse, and I had mentioned that all the verses from verse 11 onwards are building up towards this verse 16. And we saw that in this verse 13, how the temporary nature of things is being discussed or highlighted, because at the base of this is a cause effect relationship. So in general, the effects are temporary and the cause is relative to the effect more permanent. We have seen, and this is a very unique observation, and you will find the importance of this observation reflected in many different Vedantic analysis of different topics. We are going to cover a little bit of that, not too much. It's a wide field, and it's not necessary also, as long as we get the gist of what it is that we are looking at. It's not necessary either. Okay, I suppose just one thing about verse 13 that we had mentioned last time was of this notion of a rebirth. But then again, that too is a change. Basically, any kind of change is considered as a death. So the body undergoing change, different kinds of changes, which is what this verse 13 is talking about. Dehinosmin yatha dehe, kaumaram yauvanam jara. So childhood, youth, old age, and then eventual death. This are all changes, and every step of the way, every change that takes place, it is actually an equivalence of death. Okay, let us move to the next verse now. So this verse is taking us one step closer towards understanding this cause and effect thing that is going on. And Vedanta, and the way Shankaracharya also sheds his intellectual light on some of these core discussions, the cause and effect thing that is there is called out by different names. The one of the words that he uses, vikara. Nevertheless, so let's see this verse 14. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkadaha agama payino nityaha tantitikshasva bharata. So matra sparsha, matra is the sense organs, the eyes, the ears, nose, whatnot. So what this word saying is matra sparsha. Sparsha is to touch. Matra sparshas tu kaunteya. Kaunteya is Arjun, the son of Kunti. That's what Kaunteya means, the son of Kunti. It could mean any of the Pandavas, but we know that we are talking about Arjuna here. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shetoshna sukha. Sheta is cold. Shetoshna sukha dukkhadaha. Ushna is warm. Shetoshna, the way the words have been used, cold and warm, winter, summer, was any kind of a pair of opposites. Sukha dukha again. So basically all these kind of two things, dualities that is there. So that experience we get through our senses. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhada agama paino nitya. Agama is to come. Agama paino. Paino is disappear. So they come and disappear. Agama paino nitya. Anitya. Nitya is permanent. Anitya is that which is not permanent, temporary. In general, in Sanskrit, just like in any other language, when you put these prefixes, important, you put un behind it, it becomes unimportant. Same thing over here. Nitya is permanent. Anitya, we put that prefix. So agama paino anitya, because of the sandhis, the way the words they come together, and it's kind of spelled out like that. Agama payano nityaha tan titikshasva bharata. Titiksha is to, in the literal sense of the word, it means to tolerate. But really it means that you need to understand what is happening and think over it and accept it. So we are going to see what it means here. This is obviously a deeper current going on, where we had said before as well. Agama paino nitya tan stitikshasva bharata. Bharata is again, is talking to Arjun. Matra sparshastu kaunte. So the senses, what they look at is the world around us, and the way we see things is they fall, something from the external world interacts with the objects, and then they interact with the eyes, and then something happens inside the body by which we are able to see. Same thing with hearing and whatnot. So whatever it is that, for instance, we see, whatever it is we see, that seeing of that object is for a time being. The object then goes away, and our experience of that seeing goes away along with that object. In that connection, what Vedanta says is, if you are able to see anything, if you claim that with the eyes you see something or you sense this world, then that, and we are going to see how that claim is being made, but that whatever it is that we see is living off of borrowed existence. So the attempt here and the endeavor here is to figure out that which is not changing, which is not impermanent, that which changes, that which is temporary. If we associate ourselves with that, that is bound to be pain. That is a given. Anything that we try and hold on to, that we know is not going to be around, then at the loss of that object, there is going to be guaranteed suffering and pain. So is that the nature of the world? Well, around us, whatever we see around us, we know there is nothing permanent. We know that for a fact. And so the question being discussed here is that, well, then let me see if there is something that is more permanent. And if that is the case, then I want to distance myself from these impermanent, transitory, fleeting things. So whatever the senses, the minute the senses interact with an external object, that object's existence is transitory. That is known. This is the underlying fact. So this, in the larger point of view here, the death of his grandsire Bhishmacharya, Drona, and other people, his cousins on the battlefield, it is a given. It is going to take place, and so he should not grieve about their loss. Obviously, the question is going to be, I understand that they are not permanent there, and I understand that they will not be there after some time, but why should I be the reason for their demise or their removal from this earth? On the other hand, what is it that you love about a person? You don't love a person's body, or maybe for some time that might be the case, but afterwards you are not loving a person. You love the person as a person, and his body, his face, his whole presence actually is a projection of the person that he is. It is not the person himself. Okay, we'll keep going. There is more details about how this has been explored further. So let's move on to the next verse. Yam hinau yatayantyete purusham purusharashabha samadukha sukham dhiram somrutatvaya kalpate. Yam hinau yatayantyete. Yatayanta is to be distressed. Yam hinau yatayantyete. Yatayantyete. So they have joined the words here. So these distressing, these things that you are disturbed with. Yam hinau yatayantyete purusham purusharashabha samadukha sukham dhiram. Sama is to treat is equality. So samadukha sukham dhiram. Dhira is wise person. He who treats the sorrow and happiness and sorrow, sadness, to be the same. He looks at it as the same thing. Somrtatvaya kalpate. That person, he is at the correct stage where he can aspire to immortality. Amrtatva, which is Mrta is same thing over here. Mrta is death, Amrta is not death. So immortality. So there is I had mentioned a little while ago, I don't know if you recollect, but there's something called as adhikaritva. So you essentially are preparing for something. You take your graduation course or a post-graduation course. So who can take a post-graduation course? Who is a graduate? So basically you have fulfilled the requirements, whatever are required. And so now you are in a place where from here onwards, you are able to achieve whatever the next step is. So in order for anyone who is aspiring to achieve immortality, this requirement needs to be fulfilled. What is this requirement? That you need to be able to look at the world and be able to discriminate that the things that you see are really not what they are, and you should not be affected by them. And this is a very tricky statement here. If initially, very long back when I read it, I took it to mean that one needs to, the statement comes off like that one needs to be able to look at happiness and sadness without getting affected, which is exactly what it's saying. And it's virtual impossibility for somebody to be like this. You can try as you might, but how do you not get affected by it? So later on, as I studied more and came across different things and experiences as well, this is more the the characteristics of a person who has achieved this state. He exhibits this kind of behavior. It's the other way around is a very small possibility, but more the fact is that somebody who has been able to realize what the truth of this universe is, that person is able to exhibit this kind of behavior, and he is set to be free from all these fluctuations. So given that the definition of death means change, if we are able to understand if there is anything that is changeless, which is a very big statement, but if to be able to understand the existence of such a phenomenon and to be able to become one with it, or from a intellectual and mind spiritual standpoint. When I mean that, it's I'm not talking of anything paranormal or super spiritual or anything like that. It's like you are asked to, there is a kid who is in the first grade, and you ask him, you're trying to teach him 2 plus 2 is 1 plus 1 is 2, or 2 plus 2 is 4. You're trying to teach him that. So you give him one apple and then one another apple, and you say, this is 1, this is 1. Now how many have you got? And this is called as 2. And then he doesn't get it, and you try it 3, 4, 5 times. And then at some point he gets it, that, oh, this is what addition is. So next time when you ask him something, now you know the number system, and you say, 2 plus 3 is what, and he will know it is 5. But so this 1 plus 1 is equal to 2 is a concept this child's brain is trying to understand. And then after you do your efforts by different means to articulate or to communicate to this child this concept of addition of numbers, after your attempts there, at one point he gets it. What is happening here, right? What is happening here? So in Vedanta, they have clearly classified all this and analyzed this. So there is a metamorphosis of the mind taking place here. This object that the mind is studying, the mind becomes the concept. That is when knowledge takes place. When there is this metamorphosis, the mind, it is not part of the physical body. In Sanskrit, there is in Vedanta, there is a whole different domain and definition for that. It is, there is Sukshma Sharira, Sthula Sharira, Karana Sharira, the different bodies that are there. But the mind, we know that if we weigh the body of a person who is at 10 o'clock in the morning, and he gets agitated and disturbed, and at noon he is all he has got some problems and he's heavy with that problems. His body weight doesn't increase, right? Because the mind is not it is not physical. So the things that it is capable of doing, physical objects are not capable of doing. So it actually is potentially infinite. On this world, again, this word infinite can be misunderstood in different ways. But Infinite does not always necessarily mean that it is it is immeasurable and wide like space, like that. Sometimes it means that we are not able to define it. We don't know what it is. So when you do a number 1 divided by 0, you don't know what the answer is. You can put infinity if you want, but you don't know what it is. It's undefined. So if you pick the dimensions of a mind, you can call it infinite. There's no width, there's no height, there's no weight. It isn't there as such because the mechanics we are using to measure it, they are in a different plane of reality than the mind. Therefore, we are not able to measure it. So we have to use a different scale to measure it if we have to measure it. Therefore, the mind, when it tries to understand an object, it actually has to become that whatever notion it is trying to grasp. And then we know that knowledge has taken place. So this verse over here, in this verse, this if there is such a person who has known what this unchanging constant thing is, in a hypothetical sense, we can understand this example, then such a person, samadukha sukham dhiram, he is not affected by sukha or dukha. Last time I was giving this example where there is this person who comes in the costume of a tiger, and you have got a small kid with you, and the kid freaks out, and you recognize it, that this is just a costume. This is not a real tiger. Otherwise, you would also be scared if it was a real tiger. So you recognize it. So that is what is being said here, that this pair of opposites that are there, the reason why they have emerged, you know the reason. Once you know that, then you are not affected by it. So he is urging Arjuna to know that which gives rise to these different pairs of opposites. And he is claiming that if you know that, you will not be affected by this. You will recognize it, and you will know it is a passing phase, and you need not take it that seriously and get all worried and worked out about it. Okay. Next, this verse, as I mentioned, is the most important. Well, at least from a Vedantic perspective, this verse is the most important verse in the Bhagwad Gita. Now, there are a few other verses that other people claim are important, but their perspectives are different. Like we will see that verse also is actually part of this chapter. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbuhu ma te sangostu karmani. That is probably the most popular verse from the Bhagavad Gita that you will find being said in most places. Then there is another one that has become popular. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srujamyam. That is, it's not in this chapter, it's in the fourth one. But these verses, they are popular from a different standpoint, from a Vedantic standpoint. This is the most important verse, and we are going to spend some time on this. Shankaracharya, the great Shankaracharya, he has written commentaries on several books, and his brilliance is undoubted. And he spends some time on most of the verses. On this particular verse, he has probably written a couple of pages, not a few lines as he has done the other verses. But even those couple of pages, they kind of are, they do injustice to the wealth of knowledge he has pumped into that couple of pages. And it's like condensed. It's in a very, very dense form, whatever he has said. And we are not going to go through everything. But there are some points that salient features of what he has said that we will go through in order to understand this. Okay, let us look at the verse. Na sato vidyate bhavaha, na bhavo vidyate sataha, ubhayorapi drishtontaha, tvanayos. Okay, so na sato, sata and asat. We have been looking at this. You put the prefix a and it becomes the opposite. So this is like a double opposite. Na asat. Na is not, right? Na asat. So it's joining get three words together. Na sato vidyate bhava. Bhava is the existence. Na asat vidyate bhava. So asat, the non-truth, na does not, bhava exist. That which is not true does not exist. That's the first couple of words here. Na sato vidyate bhava. Na bhavo vidyate sata. In this case, na bhava, na and bhava, not non-existence. Na bhava vidyate sata. So the truth always exists. And the untruth, it does not exist. Na sato vidyate bhava, na bhava vidyate sata. On the face of it, it looks a very innocent kind of sounding phrase, a very obvious kind of phrase, that the untruth, the unreal, doesn't exist, and the real always exists. It sounds very rhetorical and obvious, but we'll see there's a lot that goes behind it. Ubhaya is both. Ubhayorapi drishtontaha tvanayos tattvadarshibhihi. Tattvadarshibhihi. Tattva is, in this context, the truth. Darshibhihi. The real seers of truth, having analyzed or they can see this, they having seen both ubhayor, the seers of the truth, they are able to distinguish this, they are able to see this. So from the previous verse, I was telling you that you need to know the cause behind this. And so these people, so you are in front of a ice sculpture somewhere. You are able to see, you know that this is water. It is the ice is a form, it is an effect that has been created out of raw material, base material. So you are, in this case, you can see both the things, water and ice, and you are able to discriminate. So you are an ice wise man, if I can put it like that. You are able to distinguish that. So then what is this talking about over here? Na sato vidyate bhava, na bhavo vidyate sata. We have been saying all this while that this the verses from 11 until 16. They're building up to come to the 16th verse. So first, they are talking about cause and effect. The effect is temporary. The cause is more permanent than the effect. Not my words. I'm not saying it is permanent. It is more permanent. So the ice sculpture that we are talking about is formed from water, and when heat comes on, the effect, it resolves back into water. The sculpture now it's not there. It's gone. It was there a few hours ago. It was there, and now it's gone. Where did it go? It went to water. So now you know that water is the cause of this effect. And so you might be satisfied saying, okay, now I found the cause. But the water itself is made up of different molecules, H2O, hydrogen and oxygen. We know that. So the effects that arise out of the cause, they have a finite lifetime. They exist for a while. Shankara takes the example of a pot. So out of clay, a pot comes into existence. And then it, again, after a while, it resolves back into the same clay out of which it had emerged. So similarly, this body and this world that we experience, it came out of some cause. It existed for some time, and then it resolves back. So in that sense, its existence is unreal. So this unreal is not there. It is really just a temporary projection of the relative reality projected into time, space, and causation. So it stands there for some time, and then it goes back. So all effects, they have a lifetime. They come and they go. That last previous couple of verses, it has been said a couple of times. This is what it is. Now, what Shankara is pointing out in his commentary is a very subtle point. See, when a form comes into existence, then a part is created. So the part that gets created from clay, Shankara is observing that, and it's part of, he is just, Shankara is just writing a commentary on what is really being said. It's not like he is inventing all this. It is there. He's just making it clear to us people who are reading this. These are very, very deep concepts, and without commentaries, they are virtually impossible to understand. So he is explaining what is happening over here. So he says that when you're looking at a form, you're not looking at just the form. What you're looking, it is another, and I hate to use this word quality, but maybe it's a thing. There's another thing that is there, and that, he says, is existence. Whatever form has emerged out of chaos or cause, that form is backed by an existence. It is not there just by itself. When it dissolves, the form goes away, but existence stays, not in the form of a pot. So you take a pot and you break it into, you break it, and the shards of the parts will get spread around. So the existence of the part is no longer there, but you wouldn't make a observation that you have lost clay. So when you are looking at a part, we say that we are looking at a part. But if you are that Tattvadarshi, if you are this wise person who can see beyond, you are going to say that you are looking at clay. You're not looking at a pot. You are looking at clay in the form of a pot. And therefore, when this pot is destroyed, really speaking, the wise person, he says it is not destroyed. It is the form of the clay. It is still there. If you see it, it is there. So the form, the projection of something is backed by reality. Now, what happens is, if let's say that we are told that there is going to be a some kind of celestial event, a solar eclipse, let's say. There's going to be a solar eclipse, that total solar eclipse that happens once in 300 years, 500 years, and it's going to happen after 2 days at 5 o'clock, whatever, they have published it. So you are all very excited that that is going to happen, and you will be out there, you will be looking, reading about it and very curious about what it is, and you'll be all excited about it, and you go and see it. Now, if they say that this particular phenomenon is going to happen once every year, maybe not that excited. The Halley's Comet, it comes once in 86 years. And so when it came, I think, whatever, a few years ago it came, that the view of that comet, that some of the people, so supposing you are in your 60s and this thing is going to come back after 86 years, that means this is once in a lifetime chance for you. So you would just look at it like that. So you see this event, the solar eclipse thing that I mentioned, that happens once in 500 years. Now they say that it happens every year. Let's say that the prediction or the calculation that the astronomers have done, they say that this happens once every year, and it's going to happen whatever in 2 days time. You are excited, but not that much. And then you say it's going to happen every day, and maybe first few days you might be excited. The rising and setting of a sun is no less a miracle, but we are used to it. We don't get that thrilled. Maybe some of the times when you see a brilliant sunset with all its, or sunrise with all its stunning colors, different shades that are there, you kind of get you excited is not the word I'm looking for. Inspired. You get inspired, and there are certain emotions that well up within you and all that. But although it is a very interesting event, supposing they say that this coming Monday, there will be 2 suns that will rise up, and that's going to happen once in 1,000 years, and everybody will be all excited to look at it. But if it happens every day, 2 suns rising every day, you're not going to get excited. So Shankara makes a point that this existence that goes with the form is something that is so inherent to his experience, and it is so there, it is so much there, that we have lost our ability to appreciate its being there. It is there, but it's so much with us all the time that we have lost our ability, or most of us have lost our ability to decipher, discriminatory view of that, to have a discriminatory and be able to appreciate, to see it. That's one of his claims he's making here, that well, there's a few other points that interesting points he makes about this verse. This is some of the most profound concepts in Vedanta that Shankara brings, when explaining this verse over here. And this verse, of course, as we have said, this is one of the most profound verses that is in the Bhagwad Gita. So the existence that is there is something that is around, that we are able to sense it, but not always appreciate it. So what do we mean by that? That you see an object, and therefore you are able to appreciate your power of vision. If you are able to, or if you are put in a room which is pitch dark and there is nothing to see, you will not know what sight is. You will have sight, but because there is nothing to see, you won't appreciate that you have got this power of sight in you. There's nothing to see. You won't know that. That is what Shankara's point is, that the existence that is there, it's like the notion of us being able to appreciate the existence of existence, to be able to know that there is existence there, is not possible unless there is these objects that we see, these pairs of opposites and all that. They are indicators of an underlying substratum, an underlying existence. There is this, it might appear, this talk might appear a little bit fantastic, but we will connect the dots here. And then the next thing, and I should mention that Shankara, as in the case of most of the other Vedantic texts, when he wants to, or the text, this is a classic style where you basically take a formula, an equation, a postulate, some statement, and then you poke holes in it, and this is called as Purva Paksha. So you come up with questions and then you answer these questions. So these are all what I have been telling you are questions raised by Shankara, and he himself is answering this. So the next thing that, or one other thing that he brings up in this connection is, if there is reality and unreality, and if unreality does not exist, and if reality always exists, then how is it that we see them together? Is it possible for us? There's something, is there some kind of a disconnect here, that we are not able to explain things properly here? Because how can existence and non-existence exist together? How can they be together, these two experiences? And without going into too much detail here about technical details, Shankara says that this is nothing, this is it's not a surprising thing, because we see these kind of experiences all the time. And the example that he gives is that of mirage. So in a desert, you see that there is water, and the sand is being burned by the rays of the sun, by the heat of the sun, and you see water over there. So you have this experience of a mixed experience where you are seeing unreal and real things together. Not in his words, not one grain of sand becomes wet by that water. The water is unreal. It is not there. It just appears to be there. So his direct corollary to that, his direct um, analogy is not the word, but the corresponding example, what he's saying is there is the truth that is there, and then the untruth, the reflection, the unreal that rides on top of this truth, and they both are existing, or they both are there, and we experience them in that form. We see that mixture of things. There's a mixture here, and we see them all around. Now when we look at a sunset, or when we look at the moonlight, we have these experiences all the time. Or we look at the sky, we know that the sky is basically doesn't have any color, but because of we know all the scientific principles why diffraction and all that takes place. So the existence that is there of the truth and its projection, which appears to us as untruth. There is a very classical example where you have a rope in a, this is also Shankara's classical example, in a dark place, there is a rope lying there, and you look at it. And when you look at it, one of the things is you might think it is a snake, and somebody else might think it is a garland, and somebody else might think something else. But let's go with the classic example. You think it is a snake. So now, if you analyze this experience of a person of ours, what is the truth over here? The real thing that is there, it is the rope. That is the truth that is there. But what is projected on our mind, the untruth, we say that there is a snake. So if you are a wise person, like what is being said over here, like the Ubhayor ape drishtonta tvanayos tattvadarshibhi, if you are a tattvadarshibhi, if you can see these things, then you would know that, in fact, the minute you know that, oh, it is just a rope, the snake is gone. You don't have to run behind it with a stick or something. It's gone. Where was it? It wasn't there. It was in your mind somewhere. It did not exist to begin with. It was just a projection that your mind made on top of something real. If we had not seen the rope, then the snake would not have emerged. But because we see the rope in the darkness, that is an important caveat that is there. It is not completely dark, otherwise you wouldn't see it. So in this semi-darkness, because you saw the rope, you imagined the snake on top of it. And then maybe you freaked out and you had got all kinds of reactions by whatever it is that you would get by looking at a snake. And when you realized that the In fact, the snake is not there. It is just a rope that you thought that was a snake. The time that it takes for the snake to vanish is the time of the realization. What is the realization that is happening here? This is knowledge. The realization is that it is the rope. That is the realization. The time that it takes for that realization to happen and for the snake to disappear, it is instantaneous. There is no time like that. This understanding of the rope as a rope and maybe of the projection of the snake on the rope. This is knowledge. You did not even think about the projection of the snake. Just the mere fact that you have become aware that, oh, this is a rope, that is knowledge. That's enough. It has freed you of this ignorance that is there. Shankara actually, this is a very deep topic. We are not going to get into it. And there are several people who have discussed a lot on this. But this phenomenon of a snake emerging out of a unreal, a non-existent snake emerging out of a real rope is attributed to the creative power of Maya. There is this world called Maya, and we are not going to get into it. There's no need to either, and we are also way over time here. There's one last point that Shankara makes that I wanted to quickly touch upon, and maybe next time I will go through it in more detail, and that is that this notion of being able to understand and separate the real from the unreal, this ability, this ability that a person or someone develops, what kind of a person should he be, or how does it sustain this ability of his? So we'll see that next time, because there's an example that I wanted to take just to make this point clear. But this one verse, you can contemplate on it as much as you can, and it will still keep giving you a lot of pleasure. There's a lot of pleasure you will derive as you start analyzing and understanding every word of it. What is it that we are experiencing now? Experience, I'm really short, running really short of time, but experience is a extremely personal thing that happens. My experience of when I if there is a red hibiscus flower that is put in front of me and another person, what I see and what he sees are very, very private experiences. And this experience can take place only in the presence of consciousness and existence. Okay, we will see more about that next time. Thanks for listening to this, and we'll talk later.